Here, mine.
Yes, sir. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the meeting, May 15th, 2017. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Trustee Lang.
Here.
Trustee Kruger.
Present.
Trustee Vito.
Here.
Trustee Papantos.
Present.
Trustee Vogel.
Here.
Trustee Brady.
Here.
President Horker.
Here. Approval of the minutes, there are none. Changes to the agenda?
There are none this evening.
Proclamations. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Public Works connects us. National Public Work Weeks, May 21st to May 27th, 2017. Public works service provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. The support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works programs and systems such as water, sewers, streets, engineering, urban forestry, public buildings, and fleet maintenance. The health, safety, and comfort of a community greatly depends on these facilities and services, especially in times of flooding, snow and ice control, or water distribution for fire protection. The quality and effectiveness of these facilities, as well as their planning, design, maintenance, and construction, are dependent upon the efforts and skills of public work employees. The efficiency of the qualified and dedicated personnel who staff public works departments is influenced and supported by citizens' attitude and understandings of the importance of the work they perform. This year marks the 57th annual National Public Works Week, sponsored by the American Public Works Association. Patrick Horker, President of the Village of Wheeling, do hereby proclaim May 21st through May 27, 2017 as National Public Work Weeks in Wheeling, and call upon all citizens and civic organizations to equate themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and recognizing the contributions which public work employees make to our health, safety, welfare, and quality of life.
Mr. Janik, we have a proclamation for you.
Quick Hit or Ticket, May 22nd to June 4th, 2017. The safety and security of the residents of the Village of Wheeling and surrounding areas are vitally important. A large percentage of our residents regularly drive or ride in motor vehicles on our roadways. The use of seat belts in passenger vehicles saved an estimated 13,941 lives in 2015. Regular seat belt use is the single most effective way to reduce fatalities in motor vehicle crashes. The use of seat belts is supported by the laws of the state of Illinois and the Village of Wheeling. May 22nd through June 4th, 2017 has been selected as a National Click It or Ticket Mobilization Enforcement Period. Across the country, law enforcement officers will actively be participating in the mobilization to ensure all motor vehicle occupants are buckled up day and night to reduce the risk of injury and death caused in traffic crashes. Increased enforcement of seatbelt laws, coupled with publicity, has proven to be an effective method to increase seatbelt use rates and decreases fatal crashes. Patrick Horker, President of the Village of Wheeling, do hereby proclaim May 22nd to June 4th, 2017 as a Click It or Ticket mobilization in the Village of Wheeling, and urges all citizens to always wear seatbelts when driving or riding on our roadways.
Sergeant Conway. No appointments, no administrations, citizens' concerns and comments. Clerk Simpson?
Nobody signed in. Okay, then let me read the statement.
She's on that.
Members of the general public may address the board with concerns or comments regarding relevant issues. The person submitting a petition, concern, or other comment shall be allotted 5 minutes to present their points and should state their name into the record.
Hi, my name is Deborah Wilson. I scheduled an appointment with Manager Svandilis to speak on a matter of public business. My name was to be placed on the agenda, but he decided that My concern was not a matter of public business, so he denied me the right to speak to my elected officials about a police matter. I would really encourage this board to exercise their statutory duty as the direct supervisor of Manager Svandelis, and to look into matters of how he's overseeing his sole subordinate at the police station, the police chief, who's no longer here with us anymore, but I had filed a complaint, and I wanted to bring to attention some video and things of the crime that happened to me. I was a victim of a violent crime, and Mr. Svandelis does not want it, will not permit me to show the video. So because I've been denied on that right, I'm going to speak on another topic tonight, and that is the case of the Sanchez landscaping business. I am very disturbed that you have filed an appeal, even though he won in court. You seem very eager to put this man out of business, and I'm not sure why. You have a judge here in the county that am I speaking out of turn? You look confused. Did you not file an appeal? Am I incorrect?
Make your statement, Ms. Wilson.
You did file an appeal. Okay, so the judge here decided on the part of Mr. Sanchez, I don't want another tax dollar spent on legal fees to put an honest working man out of business. It's my understanding that Svandelis has direct oversight over the attorney here. Well, I'd like you to read through this transcript. Ms. Maluzzi gave a false presentation of material fact when she alleged the man's fence was only 4 feet tall. I just drove by there. It's 11 feet tall. It completely screens out his landscaping equipment from the neighborhood. Now, the appeal is going to be based on that transcript, and we have a false presentation of material fact in the transcript spoken out of the mouth of our own attorney. It's very disturbing. And I'm upset that you did not have a closed session at the May 1st meeting to discuss pending legal matters so that our new president could be aware that we're spending tax dollars for an appeal to put this guy out of business. And what was most notable in the transcripts, the judge is like, you can't show any kind of harm to the village for bringing this action about. And I'm very disturbed that Mary Kruger has lived down the street from this man for how many years? And in the newspaper, she's quoted as saying, well, you know, if it's the law, I guess we have to just do what the law says. Well, guess what? You are the legislative body. You get to decide the law. And even when a judge, what the county has decided, you are in violation, that's not enough for you. You're going to hammer this guy till there's nothing left. How do you turn a blind eye to a man you've lived down the street from for years? Shame on you. A couple of years ago, you were talking about job interviews. You were so worried about your future on Facebook. And yet you're willing to do this to the guy that's lived, in trust down the street from you for decades. And yet you want sympathy from other people. This board is too eager to turn a blind eye to the plight of citizens who are at their jobs in harm's way. And to participate in the putting out of his business. And yet do you vet out other businessmen that come before this board for TIF money? Have you been doing that? I don't know if my research is correct, but Mr. Boris Radzievsky is here this evening. My research tells me he's a convicted felon with financial crimes. I don't know if I'm right. When he comes to the mic, I hope you ask him that. He's sitting right there. I believe I read in Chicago Reader magazine he was convicted of something, money laundering or something like that. If I'm incorrect, he's here and he can correct the record now, but I hope you ask him. While Mr. Hine was still on the board, he petitioned for the Arbor Corps departments to get all this money, TIF money, to clean it up. Well, guess who owns it? Mr. Boris Radzievsky. Chicago Reader says he's a millionaire. Why are you pouring our tax dollars out at millionaires? And the hardworking guy with calluses on his hand, you're willing to spend legal dollars, our tax dollars, to put him out of business. Shame on you. Trustee Lang, you got your golden parachute, 15 years ago? You forgot what it is to work, to relate with the working man? I want you to vote this thing down, and I want you to take care of Maluzzi and correct the record. It's his his job to vet out anybody coming after our TIF money. He failed. I admonish you,
Ms.
as
Wilson.
his direct supervisor, to evaluate him accordingly.
That's it, I don't have anybody else.
Thank you. Staff reports. Thank you. Staff reports. Mr. Janik, construction updates.
Thank you. At beginning of, end of spring, beginning of summer, and Public Works has got numerous projects that are going on. I'm going to give you an update on a few of those. Our water main project is mobilizing, or our contractor is mobilized. This project is going to take place over on Carpenter and on Glen Avenues. We're putting in approximately 6,000 linear feet of water main, as well as improving the streets over there. Lighting on Milwaukee Avenue, there's the North Milwaukee Avenue island is getting new lights installed for the trees, as well as the sign. You'll see the contractor, he started this morning. They'll be working on that island for approximately 1.5 to 2 weeks, installing new lights. The LED lights that the board approved to be installed, approximately 750 of them. The work has been done, and now we are awaiting the funds from the state of Illinois. The Dundee Road extension of streetlights. We received, the bids have been performed by the state of Illinois. There were 2 easements that the village that were required for the streetlights to be put in. We just received the last one today, and that project should be going forward, and we hope to see some work being done starting in approximately 1.5 months. That's the extension of streetlights from Northgate Parkway all the way west to the village limits. And last, the Elmhurst and Dundee construction work. You're not going to see much work done this week, unfortunately. You'll see that on the west side of the roadway, it's been dug out and it's getting ready for base material for the widening of the road. There was a conflict that was found last week for the storm sewer that's going across or going across and under Dundee. There's 2 water mains that run east-west on that side of Dundee Road. There's a water main, a feeder water main for the village, as well as there's a additional water main that's larger. Those water mains were located incorrectly on the state's plans, their engineering plans, and they're looking at those plans now to figure out the solution, whether they're going to lower the water mains or if they're going to have the storm sewer go above the water mains. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Janik.
Ed,
Yes.
may I ask a question? Mark, are you in charge of the state project on Dundee Road here, more or less, on the village's side?
On the village's side, yes.
Last week, a car went over the edge of the parking lot at Market Square. Did considerable amount of damage, had to get a tow truck there to remove it. There was a barrier, a snow fence barrier, at least letting people know where the edge of this parking lot is, where that the 2-foot or 1.5-foot drop off is. It's gone. And nobody knows what's going on. The owner of the restaurant told me that he's asked, and the state said it's not their responsibility to put that curb in or something. What's going on there? What can we do about it? You know, a car is one thing. What if somebody at night walks between cars and walks right off that thing, falls and cracks their head on a sidewalk? You know, it's dangerous.
Yeah, I'm surprised that snow fence was taken down. I personally didn't notice that. As you might know, the village put barricades up there early on when that snow fence was not up there. The snow fence should be put up there.
It's been gone for a month.
Yeah. I can talk to them tomorrow and tell them to put it up
Please.
right away.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Anyone else? Thank you. Consent agenda. Clerk Simpson?
Consent agenda. All items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the general order of business and considered after all other agenda items.
Any concern? Oh, sorry.
Oh, I have to read it. I gotta read it. Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. 11A, resolution authorizing acceptance of the State of Illinois previously bid contract with CDW Government LLC for a 1-year renewal of Microsoft Office 365 software licenses in the amount of $32,045.75. 11B is resolution approving a contract with Superion LLC for an upgrade to the Village of Wheeling Municipal Computers Software Suite in the amount of $35,890. Item 11C, resolution authorizing an intergovernmental agreement between the Village of Wheeling and the Village of Arlington Heights regarding the use of the Wheeling Jail facility. 11D, resolution approving an agreement with Nicholas J. Stavros for prosecutorial services for the Village of Wheeling. Oh, that's it.
Questions, concerns? Motion to approve?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Lang, second, Mr. Brady. Roll call?
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Old business done, new business.
13A, ordinance authorizing a second amendment to the restated redevelopment agreement between the Village of Wheeling and WTC LLC for the development of land at 351 West Dundee Road, Wheeling, Illinois, compromising a part of the Town Center 2 TIF district of the Village of Wheeling, Cook and Lake Counties, Illinois, relating to the village rights of reverter for the apartment parcel in the event of a developer default.
Mr. Ferrolo, please explain this.
Thank you, Mr. President. As the board may recall, when the development agreement was negotiated and first approved in 2014, which transferred the land to the developer pursuant to the agreement, there are reverter provisions in that agreement which provide that if the developer defaults on the contract, the redevelopment agreement, or fails to start construction within 180 days of conveyance, the village can request that the property that's being worked on be sold back to the village. And keep in mind that while we bought the Wicks parcel long ago, that parcel is being subdivided into an apartment parcel in the back, which is about 4 acres of the 16-acre development, and 9 other retail parcels. This reverter right under the original agreement applies to all of the various parcels if the default provisions that I outlined were to occur. Additionally, in order to get the property back, and I said this a couple of weeks ago and way back when we first approved the agreement, the village would have to pay the developer's lien holder any financing that was expended to start construction prior to a default. Now, the developer, in order to finance the apartment parcel, the developer has obtained financing, a firm commitment. The financing is insured by HUD. And we learned recently that HUD will not allow the conveyance to occur if the reverter stays on that property for as long as the RDA called for. The original RDA states that the reverter stays on the apartment parcels and all the retail parcels through a certificate of completion. HUD has requested, and in fact they will not close without this change, that the reverter burn off as soon as the HUD mortgage is recorded, which is going to be early in this process. The development team is here. They've come in from New York, and their attorney is here as well to talk about the HUD requirements. They're also going to explain to you some of the mitigation factors as to why risks related to the apartment parcel really are in fact mitigated, and that this type of change is not something to be terribly concerned about from the village perspective. Keep in mind, your reverter rights will stay intact relative to the theater building, relative to all the other retail buildings. It is only the apartment building to which the reverter is going to be modified. The apartment building and the access roads to the apartment building. Development team, if you would, maybe Bill Skolitsky, if you can come up and address the board relative to the, and Josh as well, all of the items and things that have been done to date relative to starting construction on the property and the HUD requirements. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Joshua Goldstein. I am the president of the Lindmark Group, the developers of the Wheeling Town Center. With me tonight, as most of you know, Brad Freeman, my vice president, John Bryan, and our attorney, Bill Skolitsky. So let me just first start out by saying, for those who do not know, because there's a new face, we've been a real estate development company that's been in business for over 60 years. We are a family organization, and we are not a major corporation. The company was started by my grandfather. We have built nearly $1.5 billion worth of projects We provided tens of thousands of places for people to live, hundreds of thousands of square feet of places for people to work and to stay, and spent millions of dollars in creating jobs. After 5 years on this project, 4.5, 5? 4.5, okay. Tonight I'm happy to report that we are on the 1-yard line. Although we haven't quite hit the end zone, guys, it must be made clear that this organization to date has spent north of $5 million on the Wheeling Town Center. $1 million on the completion of the West Shore pipe relocation, $600,000 for work for the village sewer, $800,000 in early site work, nearly $1.7 million in architectural design work. This has been a huge commitment and risk on our part, and the reality is that we don't even own anything yet. On top of that, we have made hard commitments to the tune of $6 million worth of pre-construction to W.A. Randolph, our general contractor. Over the last 3 weeks, we have been pre-manufacturing concrete panels for the residential parking structure right in Aurora, Illinois. These panels are set to be delivered in the middle of July, right after the foundations are poured and they cure. We have also committed to starting shop drawings, the creation of the steel walls of the residential buildings, and large deposits for construction material. The reality is that even though you don't see much happening next door, the race to provide the village with 300 market-rate luxury apartments and 100,000 square feet of retail has already begun. This, ladies and gentlemen, is why I have not slept in months, and my wife keeps telling me I desperately need a shave. Please know that tonight's amendment to the RDA is not at our request as the developer, but rather by our lender. You should know that obtaining this nearly $71 million commitment from HUD took over 2 years of dedicated work by this team. Importantly, the financial strength and credibility of my family and our impeccable reputation, having finished every project we have started, contributed significantly into receiving this HUD commitment. As you all have seen per HUD's letter, they have notified all of us that they are prohibited from insuring the loan under the current RDA. If not amended, HUD will terminate the commitment, killing the Wheeling Town Center project. Members of the board, please understand that if this amendment is passed, your repurchase rights will remain alive for the mass majority of this site. In efforts to enhance the levels of security and comfort, we agreed to provide a $300,000 cash escrow in good faith, as explained by Mr. Ferrolo. I believe it is important that through this project we all maintain a high level of communication. I would like to keep this board informed with Brad by having walkthroughs frequently, or evenings like tonight with frequent updates on the progress of the project. The Wheeling Town Center will be the place to live and play, and we look forward to working as a team with the village to deliver it. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions? Mr. Lang?
My question is about HUD financing. Why HUD in this particular case? It seems like high-end homes, high-end residences don't always associate with HUD financing, at least in projects that we've had in Wheeling. And so with that, the mention of HUD sort of scares people off. That, you know, if a project is deemed, you know, if it has a possibility of failing, you know, what could happen to the property after that? And it's scary. And so, can you give the board and the audience a reason for why HUD for assistance in financing, and what assurances we have that the bottom won't drop out?
So my name is Bill Sklitzky. I'm an attorney that's representing the developer in this transaction, and our firm actually has some extensive experience with HUD financing. And one of the thing that a lot of people don't know is that HUD does a fair amount of market rate financing in addition to what people typically think of when they hear of HUD, and they immediately think of affordable housing. So HUD has a loan program, the 221D4 program, which is what their loan is being funded through. And it provides a very competitive interest rate and some very favorable developer terms in terms of the overall financing. HUD requires protections to make sure that once construction starts, that it's actually going to be completed. So, for example, they require a payment and performance bond from the general contractor, which is in the full amount of the the general contract for the project, so that if there is a default in the construction project, they have the ability, HUD is what's called the obligee under the bond, so they have the right under the bond to call upon the surety and say the contractor has defaulted, we need you to bring in a separate contractor to complete the construction of the project. So HUD's model on the market rate projects are to have that type of assurance, to know that you are seeking high-end residential rental property. They do not have, I obviously cannot speak from HUD, but I can speak from my experience, which is they do not seek to change market rate projects to affordable housing projects, if that's the board's concern. That's just not how their model or the FHA insured loan program is set up to function for a project like this.
Well, that's great to hear, because I think that's a big fear that folks would have. And certainly it's crossed my mind as well that that could be the only result in this. But thank you. I learned a little bit more about HUD today as well. So
of course.
Thank you for your answer.
Mr. Vito?
Yeah, my question's for Attorney Ferrolo. Jim, if the reverter's cost prohibitive to invoke now, what was our plan in insisting upon it or negotiating for it, or however you want to say, originally, if we were never going to be practically able to invoke it?
It's only cost prohibitive relative to the apartment complex. If construction advances into the 3, 6 month, 1 year range, it's not cost prohibitive relative to any of the other parcels, because the cost of construction is going to be limited. And the fact is, you really can't have a reverter without an agreement to pay back the financing and of what's been constructed on the project. Because, and I indicated this in the early May meeting, you won't get financing. A developer will not be able to get financing. So the idea behind the reverter, we had a similar reverter with the Westin Hotel, is that in the event of an early default, which would mean we convey and nothing happens, right? Or very little happens and the project goes dark, then the reverter's a reality. But to the extent the project advances, construction advances, and the bottom falls out, you've got other remedies, other protections, and you heard about a payment bond, a performance bond, in which HUD would take over the project. In this case, they would have the surety company pay another contractor to finish the job, and they would market the project to a different developer under the protections or the benefits of the redevelopment agreement, if that's the case. So the reverter with high-end construction helps very early in the game. It certainly could help later down the line in construction if you're willing to put the money out there. But given the fact that that parcel was $3.7 million when we bought it, and it's being divided into 10 lots, and the apartment parcel is only probably about 20% of the total project, your reverter is still very, very valuable relative to the retail projects. And this project, keep in mind, really works as a consolidated project. The apartment building by itself isn't what this developer is aiming to do. This works together. All of their pro formas, all of their financial models are based on this project coming together as one. So hopefully I answered your question.
You did, thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Papantos?
Thank you. Mr. Goldstein or Mr. Slitsky? Skalitzky, that was close. How many other projects have gone through with this HUD type of insurance? Do you know?
Well, I don't know statistically, but my family has been doing this for the last 40 years, using this program specifically. It's our bread and butter. It's why we're doing it in Wheeling. And so I have actually another 221D4 coming out of the ground in hopefully 30 days as well through the New York State office. So it's what we do.
And to assure people who have asked the question, have there ever been Section 8 housing put up after that or because of this?
No, it's two separate programs, ma'am.
That's what, I
Yeah,
just want to make sure people understand
And
this.
also so this board knows when Section 8 housing is thrown around, as far as I know, I don't think the U.S. government has funded a Section 8 ground-up construction project in over 10 years. Yes, Section 8 housing does exist in this country, but the program really is not used anymore.
Thank you. And then you also mentioned that you'll be ready to start the garage after the foundations are poured, so can we expect some foundations to be poured end of June?
I'm hoping by the middle of June. The precast concrete contract is north of $4 million, and they're over 50% complete.
Great.
So we're hoping that it's going to be a heck of a lot.
We are too.
sooner. Yeah.
I like to see things being done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pantos. Mr. Brady?
Thank you. I'm going to ask you, because of the HUD financing or HUD guaranteed financing, will there be any requirements of the percentage of low-income units available?
No, it's a 100% market rate, sir.
It is?
It is, yes.
Okay, because I did years ago, because we had a project here in town, Woodland Creek, where HUD financed it, and they ended up having to make so many low-income units available.
No, that you're probably referring to what's called an 80-20, 80% market, 20% affordable.
Okay.
This is not that program.
It doesn't do it good?
Nope.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. I would entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Brady, second.
Second?
Second, Trustee Papantos.
Was Lang.
Wait, it was.
I threw my voice. He said it first.
I motion to approve.
Wait,
Papantos second. Lang motion, Papantos second.
Lang, motion. Pantos, second.
okay,
My hearing aids will be arriving next week.
second. Trustee Brady?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
You already asked me that.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Lang. Trustee Lang.
Yes.
President Horker.
Yes,
I read it backwards, I'm sorry.
still works.
Okay,
All set.
Thank
I'm
you.
good.
Thanks.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks.
13B?
13B, Mr. Jennings.
Wait, I have to read it first?
Go ahead. Sorry.
That's okay.
I'll relax.
13B, ordinance granting a variation from Title 21 signs of the Wheeling Municipal Code relating to a required setback of a development sign at 351 West Dundee Road, docket number 2017-4.
No.
I'm done.
Mr. Jennings?
Thank you. The project that you were just discussing, the Wheeling Town Center, previously had a development sign that had been approved through the Plan Commission. As the construction has begun, more of the site is going to be disturbed, and the development team is requesting a sign that will be more visible, in particular above the construction fence and visible from the right-of-way of Dundee Road without being in the middle of the construction site itself. So in order to do that, the development team has requested a variation from the zoning code so that the sign wouldn't have to be relocated over and over again and can be close enough to the back of that fence so that it will be visible from Dundee Road without being in the way. The Plan Commission reviewed and has recommended approval of the requested variation for the setback to be reduced to 1 foot. So again, the effect of this would be that it would be a V-shaped sign directly behind the construction fence that's out there now. The development team is still here if you have any questions for them. The ordinance is in your packet, and I'm here if you have any questions for me.
Questions?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Brady.
Second?
Second,
Thank you,
Trustee
Papantos.
Krueger.
Krueger?
Trying to watch.
Okay. Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
Okay. 13C, or resolution waiving the fidelity and surety bond requirements for Wheeling Helping Hands to conduct the raffle event from May 15, 2017 through June 17, 2017.
Mr. Spondulis.
Thank you. Typically, the board waives such requirements for charitable organizations, and also typically this would be on consent agenda, but recognizing that there are 2 trustees that sit and help with the Helping Hands organization, we put it on new business simply to make the abstention process a little easier.
Questions?
So moved.
Second. Who did it?
And please state the basis for your abstentions, trustees Vogel and Brady, when it comes to you. Thanks.
Motion, trustee Kruger. Second, trustee Papantos.
Okay,
Roll call.
got it. Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Abstain. I'm an officer of the organization.
Trustee Brady?
Abstain. I'm a member of the staff for Wheeling Helping Hands.
President Horker?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. 13D, ordinance amending section 2.03.010 meetings and section 2.03.060 subjects of order of business of the Village of Wheeling's Municipal Code to amend rules and regulations for citizens' concerns and comments.
Mr. Ferrolo.
Thank you, President Horker. This code amendment adds to the code the village's longstanding written policy and practice of requiring speakers to sign in before they speak. This change is supported by an Attorney General opinion issued in June of 2016, in which the Attorney General found that same-day sign-in requirements are appropriate as they help to promote order of a meeting by establishing the sequence and number of commenters. The additional change in this ordinance, by way of summary, helps to define the term relevant to village business for topics to bring up to this board at the business meeting of this board. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Vogel. Second, Papantos. Trustee
Papantos? Ready?
Roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Kruger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. 13E, Madam Clerk.
13E is ordinance amending Chapter 2.03 of the Village of Wheeling's Municipal Code, procedures of the corporate authorities, specifically Section 2.03.010 meetings.
Mr. Spondulis.
Thank you, Mr. President. It has been brought up by a number of trustees and tested over the last several months that the village moved to 2 regular meetings a month versus the 3 scheduled that we have currently within our code. As it exists, we have 2 regular meetings and 1 workshop meeting. And what this does is eliminates the workshop meeting and allows us to, well, it eliminates the workshop meeting. We are able to accomplish the business of the village that would otherwise be handled through the workshop meeting through discussion items and presentation items as part of the regular meeting. Before bringing this to you, we did do a survey of our neighbors, 33 in fact. 25 of those 33 also only meet twice monthly. This is simply an effort to create a more efficient process for staff and for the board and for the petitioners. It really changes nothing as to how we are able to do business. It just creates a format in which we are meeting twice monthly instead of 3 times monthly.
Questions? Trustee Kruger.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just have one question, John. If we want or feel that we need a meeting, will staff call one and we'll have the ability to do that?
Absolutely.
Fair enough.
Any other questions? Trustee Vito.
I think our friend from the Journal is happier than all of us. She doesn't have to come here 3 times a month. Other than that, I'd make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Vito.
Second.
Second, Trustee Kruger.
Ready?
Roll call.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Porker?
Yes. 13E, Madam Clerk.
13F, or resolution waiving competitive bidding and authorizing the village manager to approve a contract with Peter Baker and Son Company for the 2017 street improvement program in the amount of $570.
Try again.
570.
1,000.
Or 1,000. Mr. Janik, please explain.
Thank you. Public Works is requesting the board consideration of a waiver of competitive bidding and a contract with Peter Baker and Son as a addition to the 2017 street improvement program. As you might remember, 2 weeks ago, Peter Baker and Son was awarded a contract for the street improvement program, more specifically monies provided by MFT funds for the street improvement program. The contract, the bids for the work came in much lower than Public Works expected. We thought there might be some reconstruction of roads that might be required. It looks like there won't be. This allowed the staff to prepare another contract. Peter Baker and Son agreed to keep their prices, keep the same prices that they have as part of the contract for MFT, and we were able to use $570,000 of money that's in the capital improvement fund for this contract. So these are not additional monies being requested. These are funds that are in the budget for improvements this year, and we're requesting that the board waive competitive bidding and approve this contract.
Questions from the board?
So moved.
Motion, Trustee Brady, second.
Second.
Trustee Papantos?
Okay.
Okay. Roll call?
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes.
13G, discussion regarding Dunshire concept review.
Mr. Jennings?
Thank you. Before I hand it over to the developer, just a little background for the board. A conceptual PUD plan has been submitted for a 5-acre mixed-use development at the northeast corner of Dundee and Northgate. The development team has previously received preliminary PUD approval for Dundee Commons, which was a retail development consisting of 2 buildings on 3 acres. Due to the access limitations for that development, the developer believed that the retail potential would be extremely limited and has therefore reworked the development plan for that area to include an additional 2 acres, bringing the total of 5 acres. This redesign of that plan allows access from Dundee Road via a left turn, which was not possible for the 3-acre retail development. The concept for this development, known as Dunshire, is a mixed-use building with ground floor retail of approximately 11,000 square feet and three floors of apartments above that. The north half of the development would then be a 45-unit row home community that would be somewhat protected from Dundee Road by the mixed-use building up front. And with that, I would hand it over to the developer to introduce the project.
Good evening. My name is John Morabi. I'm the attorney for the developer. As Mr. Jennings explained, this is slightly an adjustment to the project that was previously approved 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. What we had originally, if you take a look at your screens, I'm hoping this is showing up there, is we had originally requested and were approved there we go. We were looking to do the development of the commercial in this area over here. Due to the restrictions, we had to move the commercial to this location. The row homes in the back have been slightly reconfigured, but it's still approximately the same number of row homes that are going to be constructed, similar style that we had previously talked about. The only change adjustment is with respect to the building. This is a conceptual visualization of that building. This would be Dundee over here. Northgate would be over here, so it would be protecting. These are some of the visions that we would expect the row homes to look like. What we would end up with is a four-story building. The top 3 stories would be apartment rentals. And the first floor, about 10,500 square feet of retail, of which we approximately have 50% leased out or have letters of intent with respect to that. This would be the configuration here. This would be the change. Why it keeps doing that. This is the row homes back here. As you can see, we have green space where the floodplain would be. In addition, as we had previously spoken about, the community, the community, I think it's called community. This would connect to community once the additional project would go into the second phase. So if you take a look at this, this would be the road here, continuing all the way through our second phase of development, back through to Community Drive. Come on. So the blow up of the retail location. As you can see, we have a letter of intent from a restaurant with a banquet facility here. This is the frontal view. This is what you would see as if you were passing by Dundee. Second, third, and fourth floor would have residential units on them. First floor would have the retail. The parking in the back would be associated with the residential upstairs. You would have 1 and 2 bedroom apartments that would be located on the second, third, and fourth floor. This would be a mock-up of the row homes, front facades. It would be brick and a aluminum siding on the back. And then some conceptual visualizations with respect to it. The selling points here is that the location, the pricing would be a little bit under the pricing some of the other developments in the area are going for, but that would be the conceptual idea behind this. So what we're asking here for today is just an approval on the adjustment with respect to the project. Realistically changing, we had originally hoped to get a hard restaurant drive-through facility here on this hard corner, but due to the fact of things that were outside of our control, that's no longer possible. Although there has been interest with respect to it, nothing has come through. And based on the recommendations also of the staff, the village staff, property has been reworked. The commercial aspect of it has been reworked as follows.
Questions from the board? Mayor Papantos?
May I just make a statement if it's okay?
Please.
Before we get into questions, because this may be part of it. Assuming your positive support on the concept of the project, there's one additional question for which we are seeking direction. The next step for the developer is to begin the preliminary PUD process and potentially start to negotiate a redevelopment agreement concerning the village providing project initiatives. In order to avoid confusion and to save the developer from spending monies preparing for PUD, we are asking tonight for your opinion regarding the village participating financially in the project with TIF, land contributions, or water mitigation. We are not looking to negotiate a deal tonight. Rather, we are simply gauging your interest in providing incentives in the project.
You're looking for direction from the board?
Correct.
TIF, land, and water.
Not separately, just the idea of does the village want to participate financially in it?
If I may respond to that, my understanding is this is simply a concept review, and there was not to be any discussion as it related to TIF. My understanding, and previously when we came up for concept review the initial time, there was really no discussion with respect to TIF financing at that time. We would be asking for the board to simply approve the concept itself and allowing us to put a package in front of the board if it's deemed necessary for us to request TIF financing, where we would have a full package in front of the board.
This is an attempt to make your life easier so that you understand moving forward whether the board is willing or not to participate. If you don't want to know the answer to that question, I'm perfectly content asking the village president to never mind.
I understand what you're doing, and I appreciate it. I think the only concern that we have with doing that, they may have questions if it is deemed that with respect to TIF financing, we would like to have our TIF consultant here. We would be more than happy to come back on a separate date to discuss those issues specifically, but we'd like to proceed today just on the concept itself.
We don't negotiate publicly. So again, if you don't want, unless I'm missing something, if you don't want an answer to that question, I'm
Just, you can go through the concept.
fine moving on.
Consensus from the board on the concept.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So we're looking at the concept approval of the commercial, residential, multifamily, and there was a question.
Many questions, sorry.
Sure.
Okay, this is a lot different than what we looked at I believe last March. You're proposing, first of all, 45 townhomes plus the retail center and apartments on less than 5 acres or at 5 acres.
Correct.
Where are you going to park the cars for these 45 townhomes?
The 45 townhomes will have parking here, 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 here. In addition, we would also have, as it relates to the residential, there's 67 parking spaces for the residential. That would be just the 42 or 45 row homes in the back, which basically breaks out to 1.7 per unit.
Are there driveways on these? Or is it you pull into your garage and that's 2 spots is what you're counting?
It's a partial driveway and a partial.
What's the definition of partial driveway?
The rear, let me see if I can get a better picture for you. Yeah, we don't have it. The garages would basically be in the back.
Would a car be able to park in the driveway, i.e. if someone has more than 2 cars or has a visitor?
If I may address the parking on the site plan, if we could go back to that, there was some off-street parking set aside back toward the creek. There's currently some spaces in the back there.
Up here.
If that was an issue, developer could expand upon that to help you in getting more parking. And there was also parking here, right up on this end here. Right. On this end of the buildings, there's still other.
Okay, I'm not seeing which end the mouse
Right,
is.
there you go. There's more parking spaces there as well. But the drives, there's 2 cars parking in each unit in the garages, but there wouldn't be parking spaces long-term behind each garage door, or in front of each garage door.
So my question now has been answered.
Yeah.
You're limiting these units to 2 cars per
unit. And
Per unit.
Then additional parking would have to go into, the guest parking would go into the additional spaces at both ends of the project.
I mean, I live in a complex where many people have way more than 2 cars. I'm talking 3 to 4 per unit, and that's my question. What's the size of these units, square footage?
About 1,850 square feet without garages, just warm living space.
So 1,850 living space?
Yes.
I think you're going to find out you need more than 2 parking places per unit. This is on flood plain, correct?
Yes.
I believe the limits of the floodplain are probably somewhere on the very edge of the existing building, and I believe it goes north from there. I don't have the exact boundary with us today to discuss, but
This property is floodplain and floodway, correct, Mr. Jennings, Director Jennings?
The floodway is limited mostly to where you see the grassy area on the far north, and the floodplain does come onto a portion of this property, yes.
Would these homeowners then be required to have flood insurance?
the units themselves, as long as they're out of the floodplain, wouldn't be required to have the flood insurance. It's only required when you're inside a floodway or a flood zone that you would have to have that insurance. As long as you're outside that boundary and you've used compensatory storage, it shouldn't be an issue.
I believe the floodplain issue, as far as insurance is concerned, we took extra caution to make sure that we did not build in the floodway, which is up by the creek. That's where the entertainment section is up there. With the advent of the 72-inch pipe that's going to be going into the park, and we'll be asking, and our engineers are working on it right now. We don't quite have all the stats on it, but we will be participating in that and asking for some relief in that because of the fact that you folks are working with the Park District and putting that 72-inch pipe, which is going to be coming onto our property, and it'll also take care of the station people that are building to the west of us and the whole area all the way down to the post office. Certain allocations have been given to each parcel relative to that. So we're going to have to work with your engineers and our engineers to see where we stand, but there's a good possibility that it will not require flood insurance.
Okay, good possibility, and so at this point, you don't have a definitive at that.
If it's necessary for them to have flood insurance, of course, they're going to have flood insurance.
I'm just concerned that it will affect it, and this is an extremely dense project. You mentioned the property. How much of this property do you own? Have you purchased all of the property to the post office? Are you moving in that direction? What's going to happen?
Good question. The properties that you see in this site plan here are owned by us, which includes 400 through 430, the 370 building, and there is a village-owned parcel, which is, I believe, 384, right in the middle of us there, and we are ready to purchase that. As you go east, the next lot, the next site next to your community boulevard, which is 298. We have been in litigation with that, and we are closing on that approximately June 15th of this year. The other parcels that are involved in the middle, we are also working towards purchasing those, and we're ready and willing to purchase them, and we're involved in the litigation process with that.
So you've contacted the owners of both of those properties?
I'm sorry?
You've contacted the owners of both of those properties?
We have on the majority of them, and the reason being because
There's two of them. What's the majority?
Well,
Sorry.
I believe there's one person there that we have not talked to, and I believe it's that building right there.
So you don't know what's going to happen to one property at this point? If you haven't talked to them yet, you're not sure in which direction you're going?
Well, we consider that a situation where if there's a willing seller, there's always a willing buyer.
What if there's not a willing seller? I think we have a willing buyer, I just don't know if there's a willing seller, and that's my concern.
The issue is, that's why we're proposing this in two phases. Obviously, this is phase one. If we're able to continue to phase two would be basically a mirror image of this, depending on the vision of the village, whether it included this retail section here or not, or a different atmosphere, that would proceed from there. But also, it's premature to start going to contact these people unless we know we have something that's workable with the village.
Okay. You mentioned a restaurant, and it shows here 4,280 square feet. You said the restaurant was going to be a restaurant and banquet facility. For some reason, that seems awfully small to me.
Okay. I mean, there's no restrictions with respect to the size of the banquet facility, but basically the restaurant facility and banquet facility would be in this location here, and you can see a better view here.
The purple area?
Yeah, where it's contained as 4,280 square feet.
It's a very small banquet facility for more of people that are having a small party. It's nothing like 200-300 people or whatever, you know. We're not competing with the Westin.
You mentioned using the compensatory storage at Heritage Park, and I've asked this question before, and forgive me, Manager Spondelis, there is no such thing as a never-ending number, that we have 26 and a half acres that we started with, or?
You're correct. There is a finite number. Director Jennings, do you remember the exact?
Well, there's one basin that was not actually constructed yet, so that's part of the total. I believe we actually have the capacity in the basins that were constructed with the MWRD project for 26. Yes.
And my concern is that everybody keeps saying, we need the storage, we need the storage. We have Wheeling Station, we have Dunshire Commons, we have the town center coming up. You know, sooner or later, we're going to run out, right? Or no?
Between the two types of stormwater management, the detention is the more limited resource. We have a smaller amount of capacity in terms of credits for stormwater detention than we do for compensatory storage. So in the case of the development, what they're referring to in terms of filling in the floodplain, that causes a need for compensatory storage, in this case, off-site compensatory storage. Between the two types of stormwater management, that is the one we have more capacity for.
I mean, I have concerns about that. There's a number and everybody's asking, and sooner or later, there may not be there. In one part of your description, you're talking about 39 apartment units, and another part, you're talking about 36. Which is it?
39.
39? And you do realize that we have a code for the size on the apartments?
Yes, ma'am.
Because some of what you provided us is not part of the code. It's less than what code is.
It'll be adjusted.
Okay. Yeah, 1 second, I had one more question. You also talk, sorry.
That's all right.
About special access to the Park District. Does the Park District know about this?
They're part of the Wheeling Park District.
It says all residents of Dunshire Row homes and apartments will have special access to Wheeling Park District. Fitness center, water park, and pavilion. What's special about it versus?
They're part of the Park District. They'd be
So
able
it's
to
not
access.
special access?
No, it's just, it's regular access that you would get as any homeowner or resident of the Village of Wheeling.
But since we have a Park District, well, 2 Park District representatives here, I just wanted to make sure that they realize that we're not granting access to their.
No.
I don't think we can do that. And I really would like to see a lot more on the retail side on this. I think you're cheating us from what we originally looked at and approved.
The problem is with that, it's twofold. Number one, as you stated, I think it's almost been 2 years, if I'm not mistaken. I think we came in 2015. It's now 2017. There have been a couple of issues that have arisen. Number one, the interest, even through the suggestion and the leads that have been generated by the village themselves for Mr. Milanofi, we've followed up on those items and have not been able to get any letter of intent from any of those people, number one. Number two, originally there was going to be an access point here, a driveway out, which gave us a left turn only. And working after the
right turn only?
Left. It would have been a left turn and a right turn out onto Dundee. In our original plans, that's what it required for to service the drive-through restaurant pad and the retail location. Once we went to the Planning Commission, we were informed that we would not be able to get a left-out turn, and that therefore we would have to move our driveway down. We would have to move the one on Northgate all the way down to here, and the one on Dundee all the way to this end. That no longer made it feasible to have the retail location located in this corner, because if you're coming in into a convenience center, you want a quick in and out, you no longer have that option. You're turning approximately 500, 600 feet past that location on Northgate, and then prior to that, and it's not an easy in and out situation at that point in time. So based on that, and based on the lack of desirability at this particular corner from the tenants or prospective tenants that were suggested to us by the village, we are proposing this adjustment here.
Okay. Once again, I really feel that the row home section is extremely dense. I'm not seeing any room for mailboxes, garbage, fire hydrants, et cetera, and it's a tight squeeze, and I don't think you're going to, I don't think 2 parking spaces inside of a garage is really going to do it for a lot of people, but that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Just to respond to that, the concept of the row homes has not changed. The row homes have been reconfigured, but it was basically the same amount of row homes that was previously approved.
Thank you.
Mr. Lang?
Thank you. Well, I agree with Trustee Papantos about the density. It is, you might want to reconsider a little bit of that. Parking, normally I think parking works itself out, shopping centers and so on.
Mm-hmm.
But if in a development where people have guests, I'm looking at some of the potential where you could put parking, and it seems really limited. So as you're going forward, maybe less density and consider more parking. I really think that once the town center takes off and starts developing, starts shovel in the ground eventually, that the retail portion of your property will play a bigger role. And I feel truthful about that. It will play a bigger role. I know you have studies that say the contrary, but that's where I'd like to see maybe a greater retail option for this. And let me give you a what if.
Sure.
Whenever your plans are to break ground and start this project, what if the town center is well underway and you do start getting calls saying, hey, that's a perfect spot for retail? How would you react to that? How would you change your mind, your plans, your direction?
And I'll respond. Our concern is twofold. You've got 100,000 square feet that is coming in retail locations in the town center. We just heard their presentation, 100,000 square feet. You've got an additional 25,000 square feet going in just west of us at the station location. We've got almost 11,000 square feet. At some point in time, you're going to hit a saturation point. And I believe you're hitting that saturation point where you're getting a diminished rate of return on these retail locations. I understand the cities and the villages want retail. Retail drives sales tax dollars, tax dollars. It's great for the villages to drive in income. But at some point in time, you're either going to be faced with a center that is filled or a center that is empty. And when centers are empty and you can't fill those centers, the values of the property there and surrounding it are going to drop as well. So the concern, and we've looked at that, and we've looked at the financials of the project as a retail center, and we've got very limited traction with respect to that. You also have to look at weighing out, if I'm a retailer, I'm going to go to the area where I have the highest density of traffic coming through. And if I've got 100,000 square feet, and I've got a theater, and I've got all these other amenities, I want to be in those locations. That's where the traffic is going. That's where the people are going.
You want traffic? We got it.
I did notice that coming over here. So those are issues and those are concerns. And looking at this and looking at the economic feasibility of this project, we can build 10,000, 20,000 square feet of retail, but we have an empty location that does no good. It's not driving anything. It's driving half an equation for you. It's only driving a real estate. And even then, you're going in to protest the real estate taxes based on the fact that it's vacant, versus having a location that's filled and has a waiting list to come in. So by limiting the space, you're making it more enticing because it is a limited space. You're also looking to have a small convenience center that is going to serve the 39 apartments, the community right behind it. You really don't have to get out, drive 2 blocks, 3 blocks away. You really can walk it. Whether it's a nice day or a bad day, snowy day as Chicago always gets, you can just walk across, stop at that convenience store and pick up a gallon of milk and go right back home.
Well, that brings me right to the next question is, what types of retail outlets do you see in that center other than, there's a restaurant concept, I want to have a question about that as well, but what else do you see? You said convenience type store and...
You know, at this point in time, we're open to whatever concept comes in. Obviously, it's got to fit with the project as a whole. Right now, we have a restaurant location with a letter of intent. We also have a jewelry store with a letter of intent. That leaves 4 stores, if I'm not mistaken.
We're about 70%
correct
occupied in that particular site right there.
Based on the letter of intents that we have.
Okay. And then the restaurant, is that I'm glad to hear you have a letter of intent. Is that is that a new concept restaurant? It's not a relocation of someone else?
New concept.
Excellent. Okay.
That's equal to that.
And then 50-50. Question in regards to the next, the property that you do not own.
Sure.
You said you wanted to mirror this. Does that mean additional retail frontage?
It would have some retail component. Obviously, we would have to discuss with the village what we would be looking to do versus what the city would want or the village would look forward to. But that would be a discussion once we sort of complete and assemble the second parcel.
Let me add something to that. As we go further east towards Community Boulevard, one of the reasons why we're very cognizant of the fact that you folks want retail. And in order to expedite that and maybe help that along with us, okay, we're hoping that you have your town center up and just about all rented out and ready to go. But also, by pulling down to all the way to the post office area onto Community Boulevard, if it deems necessary, we can put more retail in there and have it so that it's going right directly onto Dundee Road, Highway 68, right through your Community Boulevard, which is already there. So that's not out of the question.
Okay. And then 2 last questions, and sorry, I'm asking a lot. Can you give consideration to, at least consideration, to burying the power lines if that's possible? And I know we have, you know, that would create pockets because there's a lot of power lines that are not buried. That's something that we used to do years ago, and it was really, you know, it's very nice to have those power lines buried. I know it's expensive. Give consideration to it. Look at it and look at how, if it's possible.
Absolutely. You know, everything is viewable. Everything is to be considered. There's nothing that's really off the table at this point in time. We'll take a look at it, but at the end of the day, it becomes a cost
Absolutely.
driven process. And if it's overly cost prohibitive, then we'll be back here and discuss it.
And lastly, the big
Sure.
ask.
Sure.
The big one. Dunshire.
Yes.
That never has stuck with me. You know, and I know you're not the Wheeling Town Center, and you're your own identity.
Sure.
But perhaps something that is town center relatable, town square, town center commons, something. Dunshire just sounds too vanilla.
We're not overly attached to the name.
Okay.
We
Please,
can work
please look
with-
at
That's
something,
fine. We've got to call it something for the interim, but yeah, there's no issue with
something a little more dynamic would be
elegant. Okay,
that too. Thank you,
fair
gentlemen.
enough. Thank you.
Trustee Kruger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Gentlemen.
Yes.
Good evening. I had started my notes with what do I like about this and what don't I like about this. Certainly after listening to my colleagues speak, my like list has gotten just a little bit bigger. What I like is your continued effort to develop a quality product for this very prime parcel on these 3 corners that we're redeveloping, quite frankly, all at the same time, which makes it very confusing. I do like the facade of the new rendering of the retail element. I like the way that looks. It looks a little bit like what Wheeling Station was offering, so I hope that you keep some independence about your project. I like that it's a new concept restaurant that I didn't know until 30 seconds ago. And I liked that the access had moved further north on Northgate and further east on Dundee. I feel like that was a better move for you. And I've always liked row homes, but I'm going to admit that it's always made me confused with this project that when it first came to us a couple years ago for original concept, that's when we heard about row homes and a retail element. Then when you guys came back in March, then it was just 2 retail pads. And now you're back again with a new rendering and a new idea, and the row homes are back. So I was thinking of this as a whole new thing because the second piece was sans row homes. So I'm glad the row homes are still there. Now, what I don't like, I agree with Trustee Papantos and the density. I just think that 45 units are really crammed in there. I think that the row homes lack sort of, I mean, the front curb appeal is okay with the masonry, but I think for that prime parcel of those 3 developable corners, these need to be really upscale row homes. I'd like to see masonry all the way around, not vinyl or aluminum siding. It's just something that I feel like in that area, I think it is deserving of a more sort of a Astor Place look to it. I think, I mean, I know that those aren't row homes, but they're very sturdy. It's more of a, it's just, I like the look better. I'd like to see more stone. The parking spaces, your gentleman on the team came up and talked about the parking spaces that are on your rendering. That's 10 parking spots over by the Common Green and 6 parking spots at the south end of the middle section. That's 16 parking spaces for 45 units that have 0 parking ability on the street area.
They have garage parking. There's 2 garage spaces.
Right, but if I
per
want to have a
location.
birthday party and I want to invite, 10 people, and, even if 5 of them come in cars and they carpool, where are they going to park? All the parking is gone that day and no one else in the subdivision can use parking.
As it relates to the parking, we definitely hear your comments on that. We've heard it a couple times, so I think in our next plan, we'll definitely come forward with some more parking and try to
Good.
solve that problem. This is a traditional, like a neo-traditional type transient-oriented development, so it tends to be a little bit more dense when you when you take a project and use that concept. And that's part of, I just kind of wanted to bring that up because that's kind of what this project's about, was trying to make it more of a, transient-oriented development. So
Right.
that's kind of where we got. But, we'll
It's
certainly-
still suburbia. It's still not Chicago. So, I mean, and I just be conscious of the parking, and I think you need a little more, either cut down your density and that'll provide you some more parking for those residents that are there and aren't looking into this sort of transient-oriented, they have cars.
In one of our previous plans, we had the front load product, which gave us more parking. But then, from recommendations, we decided to go with the rear load product so that you could get a more beautiful facade that are facing the roadways and kind of essentially hide the parking.
Sure.
To get rid of the garage door domination. So that's kind of what we tried to do. And there's some trade-offs either way, but, we'll try to do our best to accommodate.
My other question is regarding, so the roadway in between all of the, the rear load garages, that's a 24-foot span on the first section. There's 24, I guess they're all 24 foot, except,
Yes.
Will traffic, I see it looks like there's a sidewalk around each group?
Yes,
Is
this
that a
is what
sidewalk?
we call a court home product. We call it a court home because you have sidewalks and entrance features all in the front of the buildings. And then in the rear of the building, really it's just the owner uses that. And with the garage doors, they can put 2 cars in the garage, which really takes care of the people who live in the buildings parking. But I guess if somebody has a special event, they're going to have to park other places, and that's what we'll have to try to take care of for you.
Do you think there's a possibility that they might overflow into your retail parking area?
Before you answer, could you use the mic?
Oh, I'm
please?
sorry.
Thank you.
Didn't realize, probably a little easier to hear me. I'm sure that there could be some overflows if there's a big event, maybe a 4th of July party or something, I'm not sure, but it's kind of common sense, I think. So.
Yeah. But for those, where the garages are, would traffic be able to go through there to go to your retail element? Would people be able to drive, would public be able to drive through the
Yes,
garage area?
but there's, in the front of the buildings, we have roadways as well. Those would be more of the, I guess you'd call it the transient
So the regular
traffic
access?
movements?
I would think if I lived in one of these, I would not want anybody driving through where my garage is, because if I open my garage and want to pull out, I'm going to smash into somebody who's trying to get to the banquet hall.
Yeah, see,
or the jewelers.
we'll have to direct the traffic to the roadways in between the properties.
Okay.
And then the rear, we could put speed bumps or something too, where they enter into the end of each building, and people will be deterred by that. If they ever try, it slows them down. They usually try to move a little faster. And
We can control that with signage and such.
yeah,
Okay.
signage and speed
Fair
bumps.
enough. I just wanted to be sure. And back to stormwater, it's a pet thing of mine, but I'm wondering, what does this project, this concept, this drawing, what is it anticipating it's going to require for comp and detention? Because I think the numbers that we have are from your previous plans. Do we know how much acre feet in each case yet that you may need?
I wasn't prepared, I don't think we were prepared for that question tonight because it's more of an engineering issue, but we can address that through Michael Anderson from Hager Engineering at our next meeting. But I know it's been calculated out and everything, meets requirements, but there is, I just don't know the amounts of compensatory storage needs at the moment.
Good. Well, overall then, I think there are some good aspects to the new design, but there are also some new complications that I hope that you pay attention to those.
We will work on it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Kruger, you finished. Trustee Vito.
Yeah. In terms of the bifurcation of we're going to do concept review now and TIF later, if that's the case, I will grant the concept review even though I'm not too hot about it. I wasn't hot about it last time Bill came. But if you're risking your own capital, which is all we know at this point, have at it.
Yep.
I just, you know,
Understood.
managers Frondillis was trying to nip something in the bud because it's going to be a lot different when the taxpayers are the ones who are going to be on the hook for this concept, and I'm going to be a lot more invested in.
Absolutely, and obviously at that point in time, if that does arise, the TIF consultant would be here to answer those questions, as they're the ones that are running the numbers, and they know exactly what would be generated, what it would cost, and how the funds would be spent.
Okay, fair enough.
Thank you, Mr.
It has
Tebow.
improved since the last time you were here. I like the retail, the way you've got it laid out. I'm not impressed with the apartments above it. You've only got 16 parking spots.
No, the 16 parking spots is not.
Garages.
That would be for the surplus for the residential, for the row homes.
For the row homes. The garages behind the retail?
The garage behind the retail would be private for some of the units. It wouldn't
So
be
the
for all.
apartment dwellers have to park in the parking lot in front of the stores. So there's a good possibility you have about 60 cars parking in that parking lot at night.
Correct. Yes. Correct. You'd have parking both located in the garages down here, which would be behind the retail, that's for the residences above.
And you said you said the garages were for the homeowners in the back.
No. These garages would be part of the retail complex. Those would be for the apartments.
Okay.
Themselves.
So there's room for 16 cars there.
I believe so, yes, correct.
So that means you got, was it
That'd be
39 units, 1 point so many cars, you've got probably a good possibility of having a reasonably need for maybe 50 cars
It would be 18.
or more?
It would, not to cut you off, it would be for 18 spaces that would be located down here. There would be 18 parking spaces.
No, you got 9 two-car garages there.
Yeah, 18.
Okay. So that's it. So what happens to the other 50 cars?
There would be surface parking. We have approximately 109.
So you think your retail is going to be all right with that?
Well, the retail, obviously, you're not going to have the retail running 24 hours a day. You would have it during normal business hours, and there's sufficient parking where you can restrict it to certain areas, the residential, the apartment complex, the apartments upstairs.
You know, we've done a lot of stuff with shopping centers with short parking related to the businesses that are in that and how it relates to their business hours of operation. But how do you take a residential entity and mix it with a commercial entity and figure out when are these people going to be home? Or when are they going to be, when is this business, this restaurant is going to have serve food at night and all the people are home, they're living there, they're going to be parking in front of the restaurant.
Well, you would limit, you would deal with that twofold. Number one, your retail locations are located here in the front. So your parking spots here that are located directly in front of the retail locations would be dedicated to that, just the retail parking themselves. Your residential parking would be on the perimeter in these areas here.
I doubt if that's going to work, but that's be up to you guys. If and when this does come about and you buy into the stormwater management,
yes,
even if you get permission to use whatever we have here available, they're still going to be in the floodplain, your property. I doubt if it's going to totally come out of floodplain.
My understanding is that the rear portion, and that's why it got reconfigured as far as the row homes, we had included some back here based on our discussion with staff. They wanted us to move it. We've moved those and reconfigured the location. But based on the discussions with staff, that my understanding is it's not an issue.
Wouldn't be an issue. So each one of them homeowners very possibly going to be paying a couple $1,000s a year for insurance.
Go ahead.
You folks are working on a study, and you've been working on it very diligently to remove a lot of areas in the village of Wheeling out of the floodplain so that they don't have insurance anymore. And I heard that number's up around 700 units that might be involved in something like that, 500 to 700 units. I believe that once you get your stuff done with FEMA and everything, I think that with the improvements to these areas, that there's going to be other areas like ours that are going to be taken out of the floodway when the improvements get in. Right now, you got raw land, and it's just like over at the Cameo where I live. When I first moved in there, we were in the floodway. And we did our due diligence, and in 8 months, we had it out of the floodway. So those are the kind of things we're going to be looking at. We are going to be working with your staff very much to take care of these problems that you're addressing this evening. We don't take your criticism and your suggestions lightly. That's what we're here for. And we're going to do our best to make sure that when we come back the next time, that when you go through your punch list, we've hit them.
Well,
okay?
I like the retail, and I like the row homes. I kind of like the suggestions about all brick and some of the other things that went on here. I don't like the density of the row homes. I think it should be a little bit more open. You've got really no room to maneuver. These people going to the shopping center will be driving down these 24-foot roadways if they want to use Northgate property, and they're going to be speeding down there, and the kids are going to be out there, if there are any, playing. And, you know, it's just a bad situation. But anyways, those are the things that you guys are going to have to work out. I don't like the parking mixed with commercial. Residential parking in a commercial lot, there's going to be constant wars going on there. He's parking his car in front of my store. You know, all of a sudden there's going to be signs going up. And you know, it's not a good situation, especially we're trying to build this first class right in the heart of our town. We don't want anything that's going to give the impression that we don't know what we're doing. And so I'm a little concerned about the parking. Also, that roadway in the back.
This one back here?
Yeah, that's one of the things that have been on our agenda for I don't know how many years now, since we started considering this project of Community Drive. That should be a street.
It
So
will be.
are you willing to build it at city standards?
We'll discuss that with staff.
Yeah, because.
I don't know, you know, it goes back to a dollars and cents situation.
And then lastly, I hope while you're working on all of this stuff, you'll work very hard on getting the rest of this property, because to be quite honest with you, I really don't appreciate approving a half a sandwich. We don't know what the other half is going to look like, or even be considered the other half a sandwich.
The other half of the sandwich is going to look like the first half of the sandwich.
Before I'd say yes to the whole thing, make it happen.
Understood.
That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Brady. Mr. Vogel? Oh.
Go ahead.
Sorry, just two more quick questions. Sure. Price point on the row homes and expected rental for the apartments, income?
On the row homes, we're looking based on historical sales figures in the area and around here. We'd be basically looking at approximately $380,000 for the row homes.
And rental?
Do you have a figure for the rental?
The rentals are like between 700, and we've got a few two-bedrooms in there at about 1,100 square feet. So traditionally, you're looking at about between 950 to 1,450 a month, you know.
Thank you.
Mr. Vogel?
Just a couple of questions and a comment. Density, I don't like it at all. The parking, lack of parking. Hoping the Plan Commission is listening to this, and I have all the faith in the world that they're going to make sure that when it comes back to us that the density and parking is more agreeable to us.
Mm-hmm.
So I like the concept. I like the idea of that restaurant in there and the retail down below and the apartments above. But again, work on that density and parking, because we've seen it happen before. Mr. Hine, you of all people have seen it happen, and we want to repeat some of our mistakes in the past. So let's take care of that and clean that up.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comments? So you're not interested, okay. They just need concept, you're just looking for concept approval for what you've presented. You realize that once you leave here, we're approving the concept, the idea of commercial on the ground level, multifamily residential above and around it.
Correct.
Then you're going to be meeting with staff and complying to code.
Correct.
All right. Hold the board.
Yes.
Concept, Mr. Brady. Do you approve of the concept?
Yeah.
Trustee Krueger.
Yes.
Trustee Lang.
Yes.
Trustee Vito.
Yes.
Trustee Papantos.
No, density.
Yes.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes.
I do approve of the concept. I have concerns that were all voiced here. Density, parking, all of
And
it.
they've all been listened to and noted, and we'll work with staff in order to make those work.
And you'll become familiar with code.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Clerk Simpson.
What? Oh, official communication?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to tell everybody to remember to come out on Saturday, on Saturday, this coming Saturday, May 20th, to the Wheeling Garden Club plant sale by St. Joseph. Rain or shine, we will be there. We have perennials, flats, and we have hanging baskets. And we also will have gardeners there that will be able to answer your questions that you may have about gardening. The time is from 8 a.m. until 1 p.m. Also, on Memorial Day, we will have on May 29th, the parade will assemble at the north end of the Sam's Club parking lot beginning at 9 a.m., and the parade will step off at 10 a.m. from Sam's Club to the AMVETS post. A brief ceremony will follow immediately upon arrival at the post. That's what I have.
Thank you, Clerk Simpson.
You're welcome.
We have the approval of the bills.
Oh, does anybody
Anybody
else
else?
talk?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm still fresh at this. Any other comments from my right? Trustee Krueger.
Thank you, Pat. I would actually like to get my last-ditch effort in to promote the American Cancer Society Relay for Life for Mount Prospect and Wheeling. This community event is open to the public. Join us for food, entertainment, raffles, a silent auction, and more. This is Saturday, May 20th from 6 p.m., and it goes all the way to Sunday, May 21st at 6 a.m. at Wheeling High School. Register as a team, individual cancer survivor, or a caregiver today at www.relayforlife.org/MPWIL. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Trustee Lang.
I want to say kudos to the library for their new building. They knocked it out of the park. It was at the grand opening last week and was very impressed. Libraries could be a dying business, if you would, and they took it to the next level and continued on to the future with it, and very impressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Vito. The new Binny's is open. If you haven't been there, check it out. It's nice. John, good work on getting them in town. And the good news for staff is the cigars and alcohol tax for myself alone will probably cover your salaries. You're welcome.
Trustee Papantos, anything?
Nothing tonight, thank you.
Trustee Vogel.
Yes, just a quick note. A citizen of Wheeling whose husband happens to be on the police commission, and I believe she happens to be on the, she's part of the Sharp Container, the Health Commission. Patty Hemd was diagnosed with acute leukemia last Sunday. She passed out at home, and the paramedics took her into Glenbrook, and from Glenbrook they transferred her to Evanston immediately, and she's in intensive care there receiving chemotherapy to try and get her regulated and straightened out, but right now she's in pretty rough shape, so if you can keep her in your thoughts and prayers, I'm sure the family would appreciate it. Both of them have been real active in village affairs over the years, so like I said, I'm sure they would appreciate that, so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vogel. I have nothing. Now the bills.
Now the bills. I'm with you.
Approval of the bills for April 29th through May 10th, 2017.
So moved.
April 27th?
27th, depends how you look through my glasses.
Vogel?
Trustee Vogel made the motion, I believe that was
Second.
seconded by Pantos. Roll call, please.
Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. There will be no executive session tonight. Anybody interested in going home? Motion to adjourn? Trustee
moved.
Lang, seconded by Trustee Krueger. What?
Wait, Trustee Lang?
Yes.
Oh, I didn't hear that, sorry.
It was a
Trustee
silence.
Krueger?
It was a thumbs up.
You bid.
Oh, I didn't look up, sorry. So
Okay.
second.
Okay.
Sorry, I'll do it officially.
Trustee Lang?
Say yes.
Yes.
Trustee Krueger?
Yes.
Trustee Vito?
Yes.
Trustee Papantos?
Yes.
Trustee Vogel?
Yes.
Trustee Brady?
Yes.
President Horker?
Yes. Thank you, everyone, for being here.
Keeps hesitating.
Go home and commit a random act of kindness.